a lot of what we see with the CM Punk thing is a personality point element. We have seen him have issues with Elijah Burke, with Ryback, with Triple H, with Hangman Page, with Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, Jack Perry. A lot of people, right? Like a lot of people, including a lot of people who don't have issues with anybody else. We've heard about how he kept Christopher Daniels and the Hardys or Matt Hardy away from Collision when he was there. You've also heard about a lot of wonderful things that he's done, especially since he's been back in WWE. I've heard nothing but wonderful stories about how he's been there. And perhaps his experiences in AEW sort of lended to that. Now, one of those people he had an issue with at one time was Miz, who does not have issues with anybody else. Quite frankly, everybody I have ever spoken to that works with Miz likes Miz. And he was very playful in doing a promo on Fox. And in 2018, 2019, CM Punk tweeted, "Go suck a blood money covered dick in Saudi Arabia, you fucking dork." Please pardon my language. And upon his return to WWE, of which he had already made good with Miz for, by the way, this was a big thing that people had on their calendars circled, like, we're finally going to pack him up and get him out of here. He's finally. Well, he got injured and missed the first couple rounds. This year, they only have one show in Saudi as they prepare for a big show in January and probably two more next year. CM Punk's apology at the kickoff show was a little bit interesting because he's like, well, I was crabby and it had nothing to do with Saudi Arabia. And I'm like, well, it had something to do with it. It did. It certainly did. He answered an interview and said, I'm not going over there. It seems kind of shady. And listen, your boy has had plenty of Saudi fans this week calling me racist, threatening me. I mean, not even privately, not even in the DMs, like publicly, telling me I should die and get hurt and all that stuff, just because I tweeted updates on whether or not they were going to cancel the show. They take that stuff very personally. Now, with the CM Punk stuff, I could see that, right? Now, also, a lot of this was fresh off the heels of the Jamal Khashoggi murder. You all can look that up on your own. I ain't got to do a big recap on that. There were some real human rights concerns, especially as things started. And those can't be ignored regardless of anything else. But to say that it didn't have anything to do with Saudi Arabia, it had something to do with it. You can say it didn't have anything to do with the residents of Saudi Arabia, which is something that many of their fans seem to have trouble grasping. There are plenty that have reached out to me and said, no, listen, we get it as well. But like, this first emanated from his issues with that, and the character specifically of CM Punk blending with the man CM Punk, the moral high ground and all that stuff for a lot of this, you know, and a lot of people conflating that for straight edge society and a lot of character elements as well. CM Punk has stood up for some pretty publicly for some pretty noble situations and causes, called out Chris Brown for striking a woman, has spoken openly about trans rights. But it's understandable why some people took issues with a guy who is billed himself as anti-establishment, walking back some of that. Now, it's his to walk back if he wants to. But you can understand why some people might say, oh, well, okay, what about this? as they did years ago when the guy who is known for the pipe bomb got upset when people cut promos that blended reality. So there are an awful lot of these instances that people look at. And listen, I grew up really admiring CM Punk, and to this day, he's one of my favorite performers. But I was a straight edge teenager in Kentucky, and contrary to what the internet believes, still am straight edge. Outside of a little weed to help the neck to get to sleep and all that, but like when you're a teenager or your early 20s in Kentucky, there's not a lot to do but drink and party, and I wasn't doing that. There's a guy on TV by the name of CM Punk who was like, no, straight edge is actually cool and it's a normal thing. And you guys are the ones that need something to maintain your happiness. I really admired that. I embraced that. I connected with that. And, he wrestled in Kentucky. And when people wrestle in Kentucky, go listen to an Outrunners reaction in Kentucky on AEW. Go back and listen in Lexington to anybody that wrestled here. On those WWE or AEW shows. Like once you become a resident of here, there's something about it here that connects you to it. So, I connected to that as well, but it is impossible to ignore some of these things, right? And that's where a lot of the character, personality, human, all that blends. While he is also still a top-level performer, top-level draw, incredibly fascinating personality, still one of my dream interviews, and a fascinating human being as well. I just feel like from a societal standpoint, it is so weird where, like, listen, Hulk Hogan is a racist. To the point to where the man said he was a racist and said things so uniquely racist that a guy from Kentucky has not ever quite heard anything to that level and never really apologized to the people that it was impacted by it. The majority of the CM Punk stuff is interpersonal issues that have become public, whether he likes it or not. And while I have no desire to see a Hulk Hogan in that situation again, I have never looked at CM Punk and even, the fights that he's gotten into and all that and said, man, gotta get that guy out. Gotta do that. There is an awful lot of stuff that I feel like people just want to eliminate. And I never use the term cancel culture. I think that's so stupid. But they're just ready to pack them up for anything and make that the defining opinion on somebody forevermore, instead of maybe like, okay, let's hear what CM Punk has to say in his next interview about it. Like actual interview about it. Because I saw some people trying to compare. I saw some, just another Hogan. I'm like, whoa, what are we doing here? That is nowhere near comparable. How could you even compare those two? Wild. Somebody says, ever tried to interview Hogan? No. In fact, here's a little behind the scenes story. There's a number of people like Velveteen Dream passed up an interview with him. Passed up an interview with Flair. And again, I don't necessarily care if somebody interviews those people. They're not convicted of crimes. And there is a place in journalism and media for that. It's just, I make the rules. I decide if I want to. And if there's somebody with character issues in their past, oftentimes I will speak to either them or the person that is trying to arrange the interview and see if they'll take accountability and if they'll address it. For example, Moose took accountability, spoke to him directly, expressed my concerns. He was a man about it. Alberto Del Rio, I was told he was willing to speak about anything and everything, and we get 5 minutes into an interview and he's completely victim blaming and saying that he's not at fault over anything. It ends in us yelling at each other, and I'm like, got no interest in speaking with him. With Hogan, I don't think I was offered an interview, but there was a situation where It was 5.5 years ago. I did the hair donation thing. I grew out my hair to donate it in honor of a friend that I lost to cancer. And we were thinking of ways that not just we could make a cool moment, but we could encourage people to grow out their hair and donate it, or donate monetarily to like wigs for kids, things like that. Wonderful charity. And we spoke with a talent. Well, I'll just say it was Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Lovely gentleman. And I believe his wife. Lovely, lovely woman. And I can't remember if they brought it up or somebody close to Hogan brought it up. But they had said, oh, well, we heard that you're doing this. Do you want him involved? And I was like, what the no, I don't want Hogan involved. Absolutely not. I don't want Hogan involved. And I would have loved to have done it with Brutus. And it wasn't hinging on that. We just at the time had the opportunity that came up of us doing it with the Nightmare Collective, who were actively on AEW TV and were cutting people's hair off. And Awesome Kong was on Netflix on Glow at that point. So it made a little bit more sense from a relevance standpoint. But I got no issue with people that interview people like that. There's a place in media and all that. That's why, like, listen, I understand sometimes I get on a high horse about some things, but like, people got to work. And I hope when people do interview them, they say, hey, why'd you say that? And why was your apology so weird? You know, I hope the next person that interviews CM Punk says, what changed? How were your eyes opened? What adjusted here? Instead of just being like, yeah, this guy's a giant hypocrite. Maybe he will provide some stuff and enlighten it.